Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be in this fine world. You are listening to the Startup Selling Show, talking sales with Scott Zambucci. That's me. Today's episode is a guest episode, and today's guest is Ethan Beute. Ethan is the Chief Evangelist at BombBomb. BombBomb is a video platform that you can use to send personalized messages, as well as doing many, many other sales and marketing related activities. Ethan is also the co-author of the book called Rehumanize Your Business. And more importantly, the subtitle of this, which I love, is Rehumanize Your Business. And the subtitle is How Personal Videos Accelerate Sales and Improve Customer Experience. Ethan is also, he's collected many, many videos, success stories over the years. Over the last decade, he's even sent 10,000 videos himself. So if you're wondering like, man, how could I get good at video? Start with number one, because the first video you do is probably going to be the worst one. And after that, it gets better and better. He spent dozens of years leading marketing teams, and he currently lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So a couple of the topics that we talked about here is really around one main theme, which is how to rehumanize your sales process. How do you rehumanize your engagement and your customer experience? And some of the topics that we talked about, first of all, like what does it mean to be more human, and why is that important right now? And how do we use video specifically as a tool in the toolkit to do that? And I asked Ethan in our conversation, why is it that if we all know, and you're probably listening to this and going like, yeah, I've tried some video and I know video is important and I know I watch lots of video and I might even get some videos from people and I know how effective they are, but yet I still don't make it a practice. I don't make it part of my daily or weekly routine to use video in my sales process. I asked Ethan, like, why is that? And he called it the paradox of vulnerability. So we talked about that. We talked about the psychology of proximity. We talked about social reciprocity. So these are some psychological terms that you can be thinking about as to why you would want to use video and stop doing things the old way. We talked about how a lot of products and a lot of the sales process out there has become commodified. And what the use of video allows you to do is create some irrational buyer forces that allows you to get more emotional and more personal with your target customers. You said video allows you to demonstrate curiosity and empathy in ways that email cannot. And in fact, we talked about a situation of where you might sit down and type out an email and take 18 minutes to craft what you think is the perfect email. And yet a 1 minute and 32-second video captures far more empathy, far more curiosity, and is way more effective than sitting down and spending that time to try to craft the perfect email. We talked about how video helps that person feel seen and feel heard, and the importance of thinking through video as a critical part of your sales process, because ultimately the impression that you're going to leave is the way that you make other people feel. So basically what I'm doing in this episode is selling you on why, if you're not using video in your sales process, you should. Ethan is effusive and enthusiastic, and that's why he is the Chief Evangelist over at BombBomb. Definitely suggest checking out BombBomb if you're looking at video, different video tools, or thinking about using video in your sales and marketing process. Check out BombBomb. They have a free trial, 14-day free trial. You can just go over to BombBomb, BombBomb.com. You can also grab a copy of the book, order a copy of the book at bombbomb.com/book. So those are two places to go. Other than that, I think you should just tune in, listen up, buckle in, because you're really going to like this conversation. And I think Ethan does a hell of a good job of being a chief evangelist around the problem that they solve, which is helping you rehumanize your sales process. So let's head over to my conversation with Ethan Beute.
Scott, what's up?
Ethan Beute, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. I love the t-shirt.
Thank you. I normally don't, whore up the company on podcast recordings. It just happened to be. We were doing something we've only done once this year. We normally, of course, when we're all in the office, this was something really important to scaling, obviously, was, when we were kind of at that 80 to 100 person zone, we started doing quarterly leadership meetings beyond the senior leadership team that have been together for years. But to a lot of these people were like first time managers, right? Like they'd been with us for a while. They had earned the opportunity and the responsibility, but they were maybe hiring only their first or second or third person in their career. And they were, running into hard situations. So we decided to bring them together kind of as a group so they could get to know each other better cross-departmentally. And So we do this maybe now 30, if you have any direct reports at all, it's maybe 35 or 40 people. We hadn't done it virtually at all. So we did one of those today. So I thought I'd like get the company on, and
I love it.
I normally have things to interject.
When you get to that place of 80 to 100, it's where you have your managers are managing people. We had the same when I was at Blend, where we had this sort of spurt from 30 to like almost like a race to 100 employees. And that's where the product team was then hiring their managers to manage the teams and the engineers and the same. So how'd it go virtually?
There's a lot that can go off the rails there, even just culturally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part that's why I think a lot of companies don't get to where you are, which is, they sort of hit this ceiling. They can't figure out how to grow. And it's because they haven't, as founders, figured out how to delegate out some of the work and then how to delegate out the management of the work. So you get really separated and you get to a point where you don't even know the name of every employee. And that's really hard.
It's funny this year, especially the pandemic has driven so much behavior change for so many people, including me. But, one thing we make all new employees do as part of the orientation is send a video to the entire company, which is, of course, nerve-wracking as all get out. And so, sometimes I wasn't even watching them before because I was like, oh, I'm so busy. And I'm like, this is a new member of the company. It's not like we're hiring 50 people a week. I mean, we're like 150 people total. So I made a commitment to watch every one of their videos, start to finish, uninterrupted, and send them a video back. And
nice.
Yeah. And so there's, there are opportunities to get to know each team member, at least basically. And all you have to do is decide that it's important.
Well, seeing that you're a video company as well.
Right. Totally.
So,
by the way, I love the video on your homepage. I love the story of being a guy that was maybe older than all the other dudes in the house. And, it's great. It's really good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to be the youngest guy anywhere. I always feel like I'm the oldest guy everywhere now.
Man, I'm there now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I wanted to ask you specifically, I mean, now that you've been at BombBomb for 9+ years, your title is Chief Evangelist. So when people ask you, what does that mean to be Chief Evangelist, or what is it that you do every day, Ethan? How do you describe that for people?
The short answer is focusing a lot more on the problem and a lot less on the product, right? Okay. And so, I did the medium version is I did a 4-part podcast series as a guest turn on Flip My Funnel from Sangram Vajre at Terminus, because he had the title Chief Evangelist. So I reached out to him. I was like, hey man, I love the podcast. I'd love to host you on your own show and ask you what it means to be a Chief Evangelist, because I bet your audience, now that you're 300 episodes in, would be interested to know more about you. He's like, I'll do you one better. You find 3 more and I'll run it as a 4-part series. So I got him. I got Dan Steinman from Gainsight, who I had a really good personal connection to him through a guy that I work with, was in his wedding, and Dan was at his wedding. So that was an easy one. Cold reached out to Dave Isbitsky, who's the first employee in voice at Amazon. So he's the chief evangelist for Echo and Alexa. And then I reached out to Guy Kawasaki with like a generic Guy Kawasaki at gmail.com because he was on one of his websites. And I saw it getting opened, right? Because I sent it as a video email with BombBomb through Gmail. So we have tracking on it. So I could see it got opened like 5 more times today, 3 more times the next day. The video got played, it got played again, got played 15 times. And then I finally got a reply from, I think it was from Penguin Random House. I forget who did the book, but thankfully for me, he was releasing his memoir, Wise Guy. And so he was doing some publicity. So I got him too. And so I ended up breaking out 10 characteristics of the role itself. Being an early employee is key to it. What Dan Steinman specifically taught me that is very resonant, I think, with a lot of people is if you're innovating, then you must be evangelizing. If you're innovating by either solving a known problem in a new way, or you're solving a problem that some people didn't know they had. And that's kind of what we're doing, right? Like Zoom's explosive growth was we were doing all these meetings. Oh my God, we can't do these meetings in person anymore. What are we going to do? Let's go to this alternative, right? So it was like a known problem or opportunity or situation. They were a good, healthy alternative for the situation. In our case, we're replacing what you're already sending as plain typed out text in so many situations. And so it's a problem not everyone knows they have. And so we're finally at a point where we could afford someone to do this in a dedicated fashion. That's what guesting on podcasts is. That's what doing our own podcast is. That's what doing some publicity around the book is. That's what creating more content is. Like I wrote a mini book, a half a book, like a 25,000 word piece to help individuals and teams adopt video into their processes, this casual conversational style of video. And so what it really means is I get to initiate a lot of my own work, which is a pleasure. And really, it's difficult to know what success looks like, which is sometimes a challenge for me, as it is for a lot of people. We like to know where we are. Am I like halfway? Am I 3/4 of the way? Am I doing an A job? Am I doing a B plus job? I don't know. Nobody knows because this job doesn't really there's no clear metrics or measurements around it. So it's really this spreading the word beyond our immediate community, spreading the word beyond our customer base, spreading the word beyond our paid advertising to let people know that, hey, every day you're entrusting your most important messages to faceless text. There's a different and better way. Let's talk about that. And by the way, if you want to talk about BombBomb, I'm obviously happy to do that. But that's my personal goal, is to get more people to think about if their message would be more effective if they said it instead of type it. And certainly we'll get our fair share or more than our fair share as a consequence of really leading that charge in cognitive and emotional way.
Well, I mean, when you started off by saying like you focus on the problem, not the product, I think that's something that a lot of companies, frankly, need to do a better job of, because you build the product, and even from a selling standpoint, you're going out, you're pushing demos. As a company founder, you're always talking about the product. And like, frankly, you're going to do a better job from a selling standpoint if you focus on problem anyway. And if you're, in your case, almost introducing a new way to think about this problem, in your case, like rehumanizing sales and rehumanizing connection, I think it's like, if people don't realize how big the problem is, I was sense like even before COVID, people knew, gosh, I wish there was a better way to connect with my prospects. Like I could hit send on these emails and I can type out a lot of stuff and bang out a lot of things, but gosh, I wish there was a better way. And until you can introduce to them the way to think about the problem, then it's hard for them to even consider the kind of solution that you all have. And so I think that's something everybody can learn from.
Sorry, yeah, the early, I mean, at the time of COVID, when it hit, we probably had, I don't know, 50,000 customers. So, and our go-to-market was essentially 2011. So, people recognize they don't have the time to overcome the distance to get face to face with the people who matter most to their business, but they know that relationships are fundamental to their success. They know that they connect and communicate most effectively in person. And so people were, some of our earliest customers had like crazy convoluted, long, slow DIY processes to like record the video and then upload it to YouTube, but mark it as private because it's not for my channel. It's for these 3 people. And then I'm going to screenshot it so they know it's a video, and like all these like crazy steps. And so people have been doing this for years, but to say, when you look at a traditional tech adoption curve, to say that we're still in the early adopter phase, which I forget the number on, it's like 2.5 to 5% penetration or something is that line to get to the early middle or whatever, the early mass.
Early majority, yeah.
Yeah. And we're still early adopter phase. When you look at the number of sales professionals and just business professionals who would benefit from being more personal and more human more often in with the efficiency of all these digital channels we live in every day, we are nowhere near 2.5%. And so, but to your point, a lot of people recognized this opportunity before. The thing about the pandemic was that it just made the pain or whatever much more acute. It made the need much more obvious. Something had been taken away from them that they were accustomed to. And so, but as mentioned, relative to Zoom, there really was no alternative except for Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or whatever. I need to have a meeting with these 6 people, like all in the same room at the same time. And a phone call is not really the best solution for me, Here, people can just double down and lean into typed out Slack messages, typed out LinkedIn messages, typed out emails, typed out text messages, etc. But for those who are thinking about the relationship orientation of their role, of their business, of their success, of their sales process, whatever the case may be, certainly, and it's bubbled up into popular business conversation. People are talking about video more on LinkedIn than ever, not just how to put a video in my feed and why and when, but this more personal style of video it's more familiar. So I think people were more ready to go to it.
Well, I want to stick with this thread on the problem evangelism, because you mentioned earlier that your real go-to-market was 2011, but the company was founded back in 2006.
Yeah.
And I actually know of BombBomb from that pre-2011 period because I was in the real estate market then. So I was with a company called Altos Research, and we sold real estate market reports and other website, marketing tools to real estate agents as one of our products. And back then, BombBomb was one of these like newfangled tools. Like there was blogging was new, and this idea of like sending out emails to customers in mass was new. Like digital marketing was new. And I remember some BombBomb people kind of floating around a few of these real estate technology conferences. So the technology is like fundamentally been there for a while. And then 2006, like that's 15 years ago. That's almost a whole generation of people that are now professionals that have grown up at least knowing that there's some kind of video. And so what is it about this problem, so to speak, of rehumanizing? Why is it so hard for people to use video? Like it's not like this is a new thing. It's been around. We all watch videos on YouTube and Facebook and these other places. It's so easy and it's so effective. It's like if you wouldn't take away email, because email is effective in certain spots. So why wouldn't you do video? I guess I'm still, because I use it every day. I use it in marketing, I use it in sales, I use it, lots of ways. Why don't people grab onto this if they know we need to rehumanize?
Yeah, so many things there. First, one of the most fun things is that the original founder's vision is alive and well today. Connor McCluskey and Darren Dawson are two co-founders. Connor was selling outdoor advertising for Lamar billboards. We're in Colorado Springs. The Pikes Peak region is a great Lamar market. So he's this new sales rep and grew his list to a point where he couldn't stay in front of people as often as he wanted to. And he's like, man, it'd be so cool. And he knew, this is the key thing, he knew that when people were buying billboards through him, they weren't just buying square footage up on a sign. They were buying him. They were buying his vision. They were buying his strategy. They were buying, all these things that a good salesperson is. They were even buying into the relationship, the way he makes them feel about themselves and their businesses and about him, right? And so he's like, if I could send myself to say happy birthday, to do contract renewals, to follow up after meetings and appointments, all these things that people are using video for today, man, that'd be amazing. So it was long, it was difficult. And even in our earliest days, we didn't have a live video recorder. That's something that came on. Internet connections, both for the recorder and for the recipient to play it back.
Sure.
It was like buffering and like,
oh yeah, the LAN cords.
Yeah, totally. So many challenges back then. The iPhone didn't even exist when the company was legally founded. And it wasn't until the second iteration, like a year and a half after the company was legally founded, that it even had a video recorder in it. But anyway, to your point, flash forward maybe 5 years from then, and everyone is on high-speed internet for the most part. Our phones all have HD cameras. Our laptops all have HD cameras. Like, this tech has been here for a long time. So to your question, I really think two things. One is, I'll just say, is the human problem, human vulnerability. This, people like the idea. They listen to a podcast like this. They maybe watch a webinar or see a speaker or read a book or whatever. And they say, this sounds really interesting. And then they turn their camera on and they're like, oh my God, I can't do this. I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. I don't know if I did this right. I don't know if I said it right. Am I good enough? Is my video good enough? Is my equipment good enough? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so even like hardcore, hard driving type A personalities go through this, right? Even the people that seem so confident on the outside go through this kind of human vulnerability. So it's this, I call that the paradox of vulnerability. The exact same reason the style of unscripted, casual, unproduced, unedited video to talk to people is so effective. One of the reasons it's so effective is that you just are who you are, right? You're not dressing it up. There's no, when you play a video and it's got this big whooshing open and the music and the sound effects and all this stuff, it immediately starts to feel a little bit like that guy who you feel his eye contact and he's shooting at you across the Lexus sales lot, and like, oh yeah, I just wanted to look at the car in person, right? Like, I don't need and so that's what this is what all the production is, right? And so when you strip all that away, it's just like, hey, I just want to reach out and say thanks again for taking the time to meet with me today. I wanted to recap a couple key points. I wanted to address that one question that seems to really be nagging you about this and like really allay your fears around it. Anyway, it's performing that there. This ability to strip all that away is what allows people to connect to us. So when you pause or you say or you flub a line and restate yourself, this is all kind of the natural human imperfection that allows people to be welcomed into the experience and to feel truly connected to you. So the same thing that makes it so hard to do, you have to strip everything away. You have to relinquish some control. You have to be as you are. You have to live with some of the imperfections, as we do all day, every day anyway. The fact that it's captured in video shouldn't really make a big difference, but it does, is exactly what makes this style of video so effective. So the one is the human problem. And then on the other side, I think, is kind of the general, misuse and misunderstanding and misperception and assumption that kind of is around it as an early practice. My vision for this is that it will be just as normal to hit record on a casual webcam video as it is to type up an email or jump into a Zoom meeting or go into a conference room or pick up the telephone or to write a little handwritten note and all these other things we do without thinking twice about them. Like right now, we're still in this, do you do video? You do video? Yeah, I do video. I tried video, but it's all video, 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 video. No one says like, do you do the phone? Hey man, do you do the phone? Yeah, I tried the phone. It wasn't really for me, right? Or, hey man, do you do meetings? Yeah, I did a couple meetings. I'm pretty good at it, but I kind of fell out of the habit of it, right? So this idea that it's still a technology conversation, I think is not cool. I think this should be that normal, but of course there's a big gap. And so here we are with this thing where there are people taking the same crappy cold emails and cold phone call sequences and just mixing video in and thinking it's going to like magically improve it. And so it's like, video doesn't work, right? It's like, well, who are you reaching out to? How good is the message? How much I know it's not worse than the traditional emails you're sending for sure, because at a minimum it's different. So I think there's some misuse there. There's some misunderstanding. Something I've observed by spending a lot of time on LinkedIn is that the vast majority of this conversation right now is very top of funnel. It's very much oriented toward, I think following up on inbound opportunities is actually a great use for video, and you can get some really good traction there. I do think that cold outbounding video can help there, but I don't think you should expect magic. But what's missing is the entire rest of the process, the education phase, the selection phase where you're truly differentiating and getting in front of all the other decision makers at the point of commitment, using a screen recording video, for example, to kind of walk and talk through the proposal or the contract to, anywhere where you generally get pushback or you're seeing a lot of red lines, but your lawyers won't let you take it out. Call attention to it with a screen recording because, hey, a lot of people ask about this. Here's what it means. Here's why it's in there. Here's how it protects you and how it protects us. These types of things immediately post sale to eliminate buyer's remorse. I don't care if you're in a large B2B sale or whether you're selling a pair of shoes in an e-com environment. People have buyer's remorse all the time. It's just a natural part of the human experience. Obviously, onboarding is great for video and evergreen videos where you record it once and use it over and over again. Impact and impact reviews with your clients if you're an account manager or CSM. And then all of that positive growth loop, requesting referrals, requesting online reviews and testimonials, releasing new products, creating new opportunities, doing expansion sales, obviously reaching out in regard to retention, et cetera, et cetera. So that's more than you asked. I'll stop and give it back to you.
Well,
I obviously am really excited about this opportunity.
That's why you're the Chief Evangelist.
Totally, I guess. Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, there's a couple things there I wanted to dive into a little bit more. So you mentioned about places in the sales funnel. And so this is something we talk about with our clients all the time is, there's you can use it for outbound. And of course, the question that we get all the time is like, well, how do I scale it? I'm like, well, you don't. It's not designed to be scaled. You're sending an individual message, even if it's a 30-second or 1-minute video. Yeah, you got to take the time to do 1-minute video. But like, how much time are you spending typing out an email and making sure it's right and checking the grammar? And like, for me, I actually like video because I'm kind of lazy. It's faster for me to shoot a 2-minute recap video than it is for me to type it out and send it and make sure that it's written correctly.
It's so much more natural, period. It's more natural for you and it's more natural to the recipient. And of course, you got all these other benefits like building psychological proximity. It's interesting. I hear that all the time. Like, this doesn't—
Tell me more about that, psychological proximity.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to do a quick drive-by here because I want to knock that down. You can, and I already mentioned, like, onboarding is a great place for it. You can record a video once and use it over and over and over again. So you can set into a sequence people who fit X, Y, and Z criteria, but haven't done action A or B yet, trigger this email, right? So you can speak to the context of the situation. So I'm not saying, hey, Scott, but I can say, hey, thanks so much for, being part of blah, blah, blah. I'm reaching out to you because it seems like these things are true, but this hasn't happened yet, and blah, 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 right? So you can still capitalize on the clarity, the persuasiveness, the measurability. By the way, you have no idea if you can see someone opened your email, but did they look at it for 2 seconds or 2 minutes? Video allows you to see, like, how deep did they go into the message? So many benefits there. You can also send one to many, right? And so that is more scalable as well. So people that are like, this doesn't scale, it does. You could do evergreen videos, you could do mass video sends, and to your, I think where you just were, and then I'll get to psychological proximity, is sometimes you do things that don't scale because they don't scale. There's no faking the time and attention that you give a valuable client or an exciting opportunity or to an important team member. There's no faking that time and attention and the sincerity and the enthusiasm and the gratitude or the concern, depending on the nature of the message, right? There's no faking any of that stuff. And so if you want to build real relationships, you have to make some investments. You can't, your real friends and your real family members are not robots in your life for a reason. And so we have to treat some opportunities and some people in some moments differently than a system might guide us to do for the purpose of like maximization or optimization. I think sometimes we do unscalable things simply for the act of doing the unscalable and what that means to other people, how that makes other people feel. So that's my monologue on that. I just think, like, I see it, I understand it, I get it, I hear it all. Is this going to slow my reps down? And to your point, how much time are they spending writing emails? How effective are those emails? How would you even know, really, except for maybe open rates and reply rates? But, until you A/B test against videos and your team gets comfortable and they start saying like, man, it takes me half the time to do this and it's way more effective, then you start to say, okay, maybe I don't need to have them shoot out 100 emails a day and scold them if they don't. We can get away with 64 because some of them are video and we're getting better outcomes, which is all we really want anyway. Activity worship is a fool's game. Anyway.
All right, we're off and running in my conversation with Ethan Beute. And I told you this man is an evangelist. He loves what he does. And I hope you're enjoying the conversation as much as I am right now. And speaking of being an evangelist, about the problem that we can solve, like one of the biggest problems that I saw out there, and the reason I started my company, Sales Qualia, is because I saw that there was too many early stage companies that have gotten their first customers, gotten some revenue in the door. They've got customers that love them and love the results that they're getting, but they haven't been able to create a repeatable, predictable sales process that's going to allow them to scale their operations and ultimately make the impact that they want to make. That's why I started Sales Qualia. That's the problem that I'm out to solve. And I want to help you solve that problem. So if you're an early stage, growth stage, B2B tech startup, a couple of quick parameters that might help you identify as to whether or not you fit into our perfect profile, if you will. If you're seed round funded, perhaps A round funded, you're doing at least a couple $100,000 in revenue and you're on that path, you're on that race to the first million in recurring revenue, or maybe you're at $1 million or $2 million in revenue and you're trying to get to 3 and then 10. That's really our sweet spot. Those are where we do our best work. That's our jam, as I like to tell people. And a lot of the reasons that if you're struggling to get from a couple $100,000 in revenue to $1 million, or if you're struggling to get from $1 million or $2 million up to 3 and then 10, many times it's just simply around building out the right, repeatable, predictable sales processes. And that's what we do each and every day. So I'd love to be able to help you out. If you think you want a little bit of help with this, easiest thing to do is just send me an email and type the word private in the subject line. My email is Scott, SCOTT, @salesqualia.com. Just write the word private. And what we'll do is we'll set up a quick one-on-one chat so I can learn a little bit more about your situation, where you feel like you're struggling. And that way I can tell whether or not you're in a situation that we can help you out. And if for whatever reason I can't help you, at least I can point in the right direction. But if I can, then we can always schedule some more time, talk about how that might work. So that's the problem I want to solve. So if you want that help, I'm here to help you exactly with that. So that's it for now. That's me evangelizing what we do and the problem that we solve every day at Sales Qualia. Let's head back to Ethan Beute evangelizing on the problem they solve, which is making business more human. Yeah, well, I was thinking about later in the funnel, like what we've seen is some clients having success. You mentioned about reviewing a proposal, but even before you get to there, you could be in a situation, think an enterprise sale, you have multiple steps, many months, and there's all kinds of reasons why deals go dark. Things slow down for lots of reasons. And sometimes, like, how many follow-up emails can you send to someone? And what you're trying to do is get some kind of engagement, or ultimately like trying to get even like a 10-minute check-in meeting. So one of the things we've recommended to clients is like, look, do a 5-minute Loom video around a case study, for example, or any kind of video that just, it's almost like you're booking a meeting by default, because when you hit send and they open the video, you're talking to them, which is ultimately what you want anyway. So in that video, if you can share with them something new, an information gap, maybe it's like a new product feature, whatever that is, giving that person some visibility via video accomplishes in a lot of ways, probably 90% of what you want with that 10-minute call to catch up in the first place, right?
Yeah. And I think if you can come up with a timely or relevant reason of any kind, you just saw they guested on a podcast, or you just saw that it's their company name in the news, any reason to reach out. I mean, the main thing there is, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, I appreciate you, I'm thinking about you. You just came to mind. I have something for you. And certainly doing a deep dive on something that's specific to their role is interesting. But this idea that, hey, Scott, I just got off a meeting with a gentleman who's got a lot of the same challenges and opportunities you do. And we talked about something that you and I haven't talked about yet. And it made me think of you. And so I just want to share with you this insight that we arrived at, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I would love to catch up, 10 minutes, whatever, right? And so the way I delivered that, there's something there like, man, this dude's thinking about me. He's actually excited about it. He has something of value for me. Like you can tease it or promise it, give a little bit of it away in the video, and then drive the meeting. So this, in what you're doing there, just to rope back into the psychological proximity. So the reason we like face-to-face, there's something about the exposure, right? When we are physically proximate, there's obviously a bit of an energy there. We feel what people are like. We get a better sense of their presence, even better than we get here on a live Zoom call, which is better than, a one-way recorded video for that matter. This has its role, and it's not to replace all of your Zoom meetings, although it could replace a lot of them because a lot of meetings don't need to be meetings. So we know that physical proximity is a benefit. That's the reason for decades people have been getting on airplanes, flying from coast to coast in order to sit down, have a 30-minute meeting, take a few people out to dinner and a couple drinks. And like, there's just something about that physical proximity that bonds us to other people. And part of that is a psychological proximity, a psychological nearness. And there's plenty of science to support the idea that when we are, less than 2 feet away from our cameras, which we almost always are when we're on our webcams, our brain intellectually knows, like we intellectually know that we are watching each other through a video. But deeper, there's something, we're in physical, like social space, close physical proximity, and that builds this psychological proximity. And so this psychological nearness, this familiarity, this comfort, this trust level. One of the things I hear all the time for people that are using this kind of early in the sales process is people feel like they know me before they ever meet me. And that's what's going on there. And so this ability to stay in front of people over time, especially over a long enterprise sales cycle, just allows you to maintain that psychological nearness. And you start to generate things like, one of the reasons you'll get more replies to your video emails is that there is a sense of social reciprocity and obligation. They're like, no one knows that it took you 18 minutes to type that email, right? To get it just right, to copy and paste the lines, to move it around, to find a way to rephrase it, et cetera. No one knows, and our brains don't actually assign the reading of blocks of text to a human writer, right? Unless maybe we know the person and we see their email signature first or their email address. We're like, oh yeah, it's Jeff, it's Scott, it's Mary, whatever. In general, we don't assign that. And so there's no faking this video message that we're sending in the time it takes, the attention that it takes, the thought it takes. Like, you're doing probably a lot of work to find ways to personalize your message, but we don't know that some of that wasn't just inserted variably, just like plug, plug, plug. But if I just hit record and talk to you about why I'm reaching out, some of the thoughts that have occurred to me, some of the things that I'm interested in sharing with you or learning about you, the human experience closes that down and puts it all together. This is Ethan. He's a dude. He has some information for me. I know what he looks like and sounds like. He speaks kind of quickly. He seems kind of excitable. He's got some interesting things to say. I feel like I know him before I meet him. Now, we're not going to say that explicitly, except sometimes when you meet someone for the first time after meeting them through video, you go like, oh my gosh, it's like we've already met.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had this experience with clients and prospects where they've been watching videos of mine on LinkedIn or other places. And I actually had this happen a couple of months ago. I was on a call with the CEO at a founder, and we got onto the topic about a workshop that I ran in New Zealand back in the early part of this year. And he even said to me, oh, the team and I know all about your trip to New Zealand. And I was like, how would he know? And then I realized I'd done a couple of videos talking about this workshop I did. And then I did an ultra marathon down there. So I did some videos that I posted on LinkedIn. So I left this kind of like these breadcrumbs, these video breadcrumbs. And turns out he and the team had been watching those videos. And it's like you said, it just breaks down those barriers altogether. And I really like what you said about the example of the 18 minutes that it took me to type out and craft that email, because the way that people accept email in most cases anymore, it's like a burden. It's an obligation. It's like, yet another email that I got to work through. Even if it's a short email, the old saying is, if I had more time, I'd write you a shorter letter. So even if you write like a 3-sentence email, there might have been 30 minutes that went into craft that email to hit send. But the person on the other side is like, it's like handing me a goldfish. You're like, great, now I get to take care of this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas a video, it takes less time to produce and it has a much higher intrinsic value.
Yeah, and again,
I think
I know by what you said in there that you spent more time than the 1 minute and 32 seconds that you sent, but it's so immediately obvious to us in a human to human dynamic what you have done for me and why. So, and I will say, to the point of, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. The only time I guess there are 2 times that I will ever re-record a video that I'm sending to one person or 12 people or 80,000 people. And it's, the first one is obvious. Like if I make a dramatic misstatement, like a fundamental major error, I misstate someone's name, and then I realize before I hit send, like, oh man, this one was for Samantha. I can't believe I said Tina, right? Because maybe I'm knocking out a bunch of them in a row. If there's a gross error that would be confusing or offensive to the person, I'll re-record it. But that's very, very rare. Most commonly, as we do in conversation, we'll stop and restate ourselves in the video, and that's perfectly fine. That's part of the imperfection being your perfection. That's what makes you approachable and real and honest. The other one is more related to that fun phrase or that fun thought, which is, if I record a video and it takes me 2.5 minutes to do it, but I just know intuitively I could have done that in 1:25, I will re-record it out of respect for the recipient or the recipients to honor their time. And frankly, you get another rep in. It's just like, obviously as an ultra marathoner, the importance of getting the reps in, getting the miles in, getting the strokes in, getting the what do we call it on bikes? The pedals in,
time in the saddle.
Wait, you're an ultra marathoner, not necessarily. Are you an Ironman triathlete as well?
I was.
Do you do a triathlon?
Yeah, I was an Ironman.
Yeah, there you go. So I did hit all of them there.
Yeah.
So, which it's amazing, by the way. That'd be a really interesting conversation too. I don't know if you've done it on your podcast, but I think there certainly be parallels to the work that you do in preparation, in competition. That would certainly be obvious parallels to the sales process. That'd be a fun one to listen to.
Yeah. Well, thanks. You can interview me then.
Okay.
I have talked about it a bit here and there. I'll do some race reports and talk about lessons learned from the trail and those sorts of things. And those are actually work out as to be really good videos. I'll do a short LinkedIn video, especially either right before or right after a race. And I'll be reflecting back over all the work that went into running that race and finishing that race. And over the next couple of weeks, I'll do like, hey, lessons from the trail. And it's like a 3 or 4 minute video. I can shoot it and post it onto LinkedIn. And people tend to like that piece of it, because it goes back to what you're talking about here, which is rehumanizing sales. It's not just like, here's Scott, who logically he can teach me sales frameworks, and he can teach me how to do outbound, and he can teach me how to build my sales process and hire people. Like, that's a logic brain that people go, great, I need that help. Ultimately, when they watch those videos, just like that CEO that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, it's not just Scott's a really smart guy who knows how to teach me sales. He's like a real dude that's tackling hard stuff and being willing to admit failure. I've had DNFs in races, and I've done a whole podcast about the DNF and how much I learned and the mistakes that I made. And that's why I think the video, I can't type up an email and talk about those things. When people see it and they hear it, they're like, okay, this is like a real dude going through real stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. I think giving people things to relate to is part of Rehumanize. The reason we put re in front of humanize, obviously human and be more human and, other nice words that some people regard as soft, but I think are important to be in popular business culture. Words like empathy and vulnerability, et cetera. Those words have been around for a while, but we went with rehumanize as kind of our call, because this is how business was done, 2 generations ago, before everyone had an email address and before social media existed and before, people say marketers ruin everything, and they certainly ruined email but now you've got BDRs and SDRs and AEs who now have powerful, essentially marketing automation tools. but now for the sales stack. And so now they're ruining things too by shooting out messages in kind of this impersonal way. And so, if you go back to, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations ago, they were straight up handshake deals. I would show up at your office. I'd show up on your doorstep. We would sign contracts in ink next to one another. We would shake hands on these things. We would still go to dinners and, travel distances to get that done. And it was all face to face. And certainly there are massive benefits, massive efficiencies to all these things that have come forward, especially since the turn of the millennium. But I don't know that they've all been used properly. And certainly the pendulum, I feel, is swung a bit too far in favor of tools and tech. And that's why I would like this conversation around video to start to fall to the background, to be more about human to human communication, a more human centered approach to the way that we communicate, to finding these spots to do the unscalable, to finding these spots to realize where a human doing a show and tell with a screen recorder, or I see you've got, some things on your wall, you've got that little board behind you. You could just do kind of show and tell in a physical way in a video, and it's going to communicate so much more effectively. And again, to the degree that the human is important to your sales and service process, and certainly if you're not going down the Amazon road, which is massive volume, incredible applications of AI, completely self-service, then humans are going to be involved in your process. And that's the case for a lot of us in B2B software, B2B tech in general, is, humans are still involved, and rightfully so, at their right points, and we're deploying tech to put them in their best position to win. And I think when we start talking about this video tech, I would like for it to fall into the background and just be something available to pull off the shelf, or to pull out from behind me, or to pull out of my holster or tool belt, or whatever we want to call it, as appropriate, to equip our salespeople to lead with their best asset, which is who they are, right? Almost every business that we're in is commodified. And if it isn't commodified, it's being commodified, right? So you, as an expert in a variety of techniques and processes, and doing some discovery and diagnosis and prescription and handholding to help people improve their processes, you're not the only one doing that, but you have a very unique experience, Scott, from your background, the things that you've seen, the things that you've experienced, the processes you've built, the people you've worked with, the clients that you've helped and served, and all this rolls up into kind of who you are. Who you are is fundamental to the service that you provide. And now I'll step it out to something less obvious, where you are one of 18 sales reps at, let's just say, a software company, and you're all essentially selling the same thing, but you're all selling against competitors. And when you can connect with someone and have someone feel some of that social reciprocity, the obligation, I like this guy's in my corner, this guy gets it, and this guy gets me, that triggers like irrational buying forces. We see the world the same way. Man, I don't need another meeting in my day, but I really enjoy spending time with that guy. He's fun to talk to, and he's helpful, right? This triggers irrational buying forces where you may be the more expensive product. You may be missing one or two features. Now, they're not going to be the one or two most important features. I don't know that I can get over that. I don't know that as the buyer, I can sell that internally to the people who I'm staking some of my reputation on this decision as the advocate for this product versus that one. But if it's a secondary or tertiary thing, or you're a little bit more expensive, we've all done this. When we feel good about a person in a situation, we start to rationalize things a little bit differently. Yeah, they're a little bit more expensive, but yeah, they don't do this and that, but, right? And this is the irrational buying force of, I just feel good about this person in this situation. So if you are listening to this and you're a sales manager or a sales leader and you're hiring people, we know why you're hiring this person over that person. And so much of it is kind of the soft side of it. Yeah, they need to have a good track record. Yeah, they need to do good in the mock demos that you're doing in the interview and selection process. They need to check all the basic boxes. But what you're really hiring is this. You are hiring things like enthusiasm. You are hiring things like empathy. You are hiring things like curiosity. You are hiring things like perseverance. But you cannot type an email to a potential buyer that says, I am curious and I am empathetic. Therefore, you might enjoy working with me more than other people, right? These are things we have to demonstrate. And when you equip your salespeople with tools that dehumanize them, and by that I simply mean taking the messenger out of the message, taking the person out of their communication, and you solely equip them with faceless voicemails and even machines that'll leave pre-recorded voicemails. They're not even doing it except maybe checking the box that that thing happened. We're not putting our people in that way. We're not putting our company in the best position to win. And so I would love for this to be the less of a video conversation in the foreseeable future and more of a, this is just how we do. When we want to get personal, when we want to make connection, this is just what we do. We want to explain things more clearly. This is what we do. When we want to show and tell, we get out a screen recorder video, right? And so put your people back in their messages. Let your people be people, you know?
Well, you said something a few moments ago, and I want to point out, like, I actually have a different perspective about Amazon. Like you said, Amazon's AI and all this big structure around it. When it comes down to buying a product, I know I do this all the time. If I'm going to go buy a product from Amazon, one of the first things that most people do, go to the reviews.
Yep, I read the 4 stars and the 2 stars.
You read the 4, and I go to the 1s just to see what they're whining about, and then I'll go up to the 2s. This is also normal for people to do that process. What I found, especially if it's a physical, like an important product, if it's a piece of equipment, for example, if I'm going to be buying a backpack or something else I'm going to be using out on the trail, I want to see the thing. I want to see somebody I can see the pictures, the 2-dimensional picture. But when there's a video review and somebody's taken that time to actually unpack it, show you how it works, put it together, I'm like, oh, okay, that's the piece of camping equipment that I really want to buy. Or that's the piece of gear that seems like it's going to work for me. So even though Amazon isn't producing that content, the user-generated content is getting consumed.
Totally. And that just reinforces the point. Absolutely. We need other people to help us understand our not just our potential future, right? That's kind of like a hard sale, but our predictable or realistic future. That's what a very honest and forthcoming salesperson would maybe draw out. They are going to reveal some weaknesses and these types of things that reviews en masse show us. And I agree, especially when buying things that are physical. I love that you offered a backpack. So I'm like, I'm not super tall. I'm not short. I guess I'm like 5'10", 5'11". So like, is this going to like wear long on my back? Am I going to be, and I'm not a huge dude. So like, I want to see it on a person and I want to hear them talk about it. And I want to see like, how big is 25 liters? Is that too big or too small? I have no idea. Right. So like, I totally agree. And so that's why G2, Capterra, et cetera, in the most often before we ever talk to anybody, we go to our peers at other companies and on other teams. Hey, this is what I'm looking to do. What are you guys doing? How's it working out for you? What was the experience like? And then we go read what other people we don't know. We want to read their reviews. We want to see the numbers in the star system en masse and how many there are. Is this 4.4? Is that based on 37 reviews or 3,700 reviews? Because that's a big difference too. And so to your point, humans are, to be fair and honor your point, we still want humans involved in our buying process, even when it's completely self-serve.
Yeah. Well, so let's assume now we've completely sold, especially you've evangelized and you sold people on the problem here that they should be using video. And they're like a lot of the people that you just talked about that maybe they tried it for a bit and then they got out of the habit, or they know they should, but they're afraid to use it. You wrote the entire book focused on this with, Rehumanize Your Business, and the subtitle, which is probably more important than the main title, How Personal Videos Accelerate Sales and Improve Customer Experience. So if I'm listening to this, number one, go buy the book, I would say. Number two, if I'm looking for like, what are the next 3 steps, or what are the first 3 steps that are going to get me out of this? Okay, so now's the time of actually going to do this and follow through and make it a habit for me, make it a habit for my team. What are the ways that people can break down whatever resistance that they have in order to make this easy for them and turn it into a habit that they stick with?
Yeah, I'll go back to that vulnerability piece, that discomfort. It's a discomfort with, again, how I look and sound, which is the only way through it is practice. And as someone who's doing a lot, you're pushing yourself to extremes. You don't learn to run an ultra marathon by reading a book about ultra marathon. Now, you might enjoy the read. It might be useful to you. You might get some tips, but you have to get on the road or get on the trail and run it. Yeah. You have to feel like there's no fate. There's no way around it. You're not going to pick up a book and learn how to ski. You're not going to pick up a book and learn to speak Mandarin. you're not going to pick up a saxophone and be able to play it, right? You need to practice all of these things. And so what I would encourage people to do is obviously BombBomb offers a 2-week free trial. There are a lot of services that offer free trials or even freemium services. And so, try out a couple of the tools and use it, right? And so with us, it's a 14-day free trial, unlimited video sending. Keep a list. This is something I like to do. If you want to start easy, start with family, friends, team members, colleagues, people you know and who know you. And maybe keep a running list of, when someone comes to mind, right? Oh my gosh, I just noticed on LinkedIn that so-and-so and such and such. And I left a comment, but I'm going to go that extra step of, hey, Scott, man, I saw that post you put up on LinkedIn the other day, and I know I mentioned that comment, but I want to tell you, it reminded me of something that happened to me when I was a kid, and it was blah, 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 blah. It was just so awesome. It was great to relive it. I'm so excited. I hope you have an awesome weekend coming up here, right? As these things occur to you where you're thinking about other people, make a little note and then just time block 10 minutes or 20 minutes a couple times a week and send out thank you, good job, congratulations. I just noticed that, right? That's kind of the one I was just performing there. I just noticed that. I was happy to hear, or I was sorry to hear. Again, expressing concern, sincere concern and interest, and even condolence is something that is so much better done in video than it is in typed out text, because you don't need to have all the exact right words. And I would say expressing yourself verbally and with your whole self is even easier than finding the right words to type in flat black text on a flat white screen with what punctuation. There's no emoji to go with that message. But when you look someone in the eye and say, hey man, I just want to let you know, I was on Instagram the other day. I saw that thoughtful post you put up. I want to let you know I'm thinking about you and your family. I know how much she meant to you, and the words will come to you if you're an honest and sincere and caring person, and you can tap into that. Just being who you are and doing that for the people around you. So I know that if you work on a team of 5 people or 50 people or 5,000 people, you have at least 2 or 3 people that you could thank right now. And doing it in a video allows them to see it, feel it, and most importantly, to feel seen and to feel heard, to feel appreciated in a way that a little thank you Slack message is better than nothing. A little GIF in an email or in a Slack message or in a LinkedIn message is better than nothing, but it's not as good as you reaching out, because again, the way you make other people feel is the key to your success, period. And again, some of these things don't scale and you can't do it all the time, but I promise you have 10 minutes or 20 minutes a couple times a week to knock out some of these personal messages. And so start with people you know and who know you. And then when you get comfortable with your equipment, you choose your software solution, you get comfortable using that, you can start using it in other aspects of your business with more confidence and more comfort, because you have gotten some of those reps in. You have gotten some of those miles in. You have gotten some of those replies and responses that let you know, because people are going to, oh my God, it was great to see you. I loved your email. By the way, no one says I love your email unless there's a video in it, right? So you're going to get these replies and responses that validate the effort and let you know that it is different and better, and let you know that you are making an impact on that other person. You'll get things like, oh my gosh, that made my day, or I was having the worst week and that totally turned it around. These things will happen for you, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to do it. And if you have any sense of feeling at all and you respect the importance of human connection in the success of your business and in your career, then I think you'll find that this is going to be a really rewarding journey to go on, and it will become very normal to you without a lot of work.
I love that. That's like a really easy way. Start inside that circle of people you have the most trust with, like you said, family, friends. And then from a business standpoint, maybe start with customers, investors, advisors, team members. Those are people you already have a relationship with. And like you said, do the reps and get comfortable doing it. And even if you're never going to be 100% comfortable doing it. Nobody ever is. At least, I mean, I am, because I'm comfortable, but I always feel like I can do better. I'm always a little conscious, like,
right.
I wish I could do better.
You can. It's an iterative process. Yeah. I know you can run faster. I know you can swim harder.
I don't know. I think I've topped out.
Okay. Right. Yeah, there's a limit there. But this is an iterative process, like anyone thing. Yeah. The reason people hire you is because they want to improve processes that are functional. They're working. People are buying. But we want to get better. This is an iterative process like anything else. And I love this idea of intimate too, like internal advisors, mentors, investors. Like if you have a cool win or one of your team members has a cool win, you hear about it in a meeting, take a minute out of your day. Hey, I just wanted to reach out, had a really cool, I know we got that meeting coming up in 2 weeks and I'm looking forward to that. I want to give you a cool little story that happened today, blah, 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 blah. If you want to buy confidence and create excitement and spread awareness of the good things that are going on, a little video message, again, and it's asynchronous. A minute when it's convenient for you, and then people open it up and experience you in person and experience the story and experience your excitement when it's convenient for them.
Yeah. And I think this also goes back to the idea of what you called psychological proximity, because like, let's say I'm going to do an investor update and you had like a big win with a new customer. They sent you that email that said, hey, we want to get started. Like, what if you took a video with you showing the email instead of just flicking a message to the investor like, hey, we just got this contract signed? What if you said, hey, I wanted to show you the actual email that we got and how excited we are here at the team, our team, because we got this email and this is what they said. Like that in itself is like you're delivering that same enthusiasm that your new customer sent to you. And I think from an investor standpoint, if I get that kind of message, I feel like I'm now more proximate to the company as opposed
100%.
to getting some other, update from, in the quarterly board meeting.
Perfect. Well said.
Yeah. Listen, Ethan, this has been a hoot. I'm really, really glad we can make this happen. And so as Chief Evangelist for BombBomb, where should people go? What's the best place to go? We'll obviously have a link to the book in the show notes. Rehumanize Your Business. It's available on Amazon and probably other places. But if people want to check out more about BombBomb or they want to connect with you, where's the best place you would send them?
Yeah, I assume if you're listening at this point in the show that you're more receptive to this. And I never hesitate to welcome direct communication. So you can email me, Ethan, ETHAN, at bombbomb.com. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. It's Ethan Beute. Last name is Beute. I don't know that there are very many Buttes on LinkedIn, so it should be pretty easy. It's Ethan Beute on LinkedIn. We're at bombbomb.com. It's just the word bomb twice, BOMB.com. We're BombBomb on all the social networks. I'm Ethan Beute on all the social networks, and I welcome direct communication.
Cool. And you don't even have to send a video to get started.
No, but I probably will send one back.
There we go. So there you go. Well, listen, man, again, Ethan, thanks so much for the time. And more importantly, thank you so much for the expertise and the enthusiasm. Like, that's why I like doing these interviews on Zoom, even though people are listening, just to see your effusiveness. I can tell how much you care about this and how much you enjoy it. I can see why you're the Chief Evangelist over at BombBomb. So thanks for sharing your genius. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks for the conversation. It was fun.
Cool. All right, man. Talk soon. Let's call that a wrap. Man, I really enjoyed that conversation with Ethan. I was really excited to have him on the podcast. He really brought the heat today and the enthusiasm, which I knew that he would. Listen, I absolutely would recommend take advantage of the 2-week free trial that he mentioned over at bombbomb.com. He just gave you some really easy tactical ways to get started with video or pick it up again if you tried it a little bit and then got away from it. It's easy to do, it's simple to do, and frankly, it's way, way less work than typing out a bunch of emails each and every day. So give it a shot. Go over to bombbomb.com and do make sure you grab a copy of the book, Rehumanize Your Business, how personal videos accelerate sales and improve customer experience. It really is a great playbook going through much of what he went through today. And I think it's a way for you to keep yourself motivated and look for some quick tips, just like the ones that he shared with us in the last few minutes of our conversation today. So that's it for now. We'll have another episode coming your way very, very soon. In the meantime, please tell a friend or 10 as well. Leave a review over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. The more reviews and the more traffic we get on those reviews, then the easier it is for those different podcast platforms to recommend our show to other people just like you. So love to see the numbers go up and up and up, the downloads, subscribers. We've had our biggest months ever. We continue to have our biggest months ever. It seems like it feels that way every single month now. We're really picking up even more steam than we've had over the last couple of years. And that's thanks to you telling people about it, telling a friend or 10, and sharing the good stuff that we're doing here with your friends. So please do that. Leave a review and let us know how we're doing. All right, that's it for now. See you next time. Talk to you next time. Listen to you next time, whatever you want to call it. That's the Startup Selling Show, Talking Sales with Scott Butte.